Matt Burney, you're taking a look at stakes action from Gulfstream Park Saturday afternoon. Race number 13, the Grade 3 Smile Sprint. 6 furlongs on the main track. We'll take a look at this race using the new classic PPs available on DRF.com. I'd encourage anyone, just go take a look at them. Even if it's not something, if you're a Formulator user, you're a Timeform US user, diehard, whatever it may be, just take a look at these. There's some new functionality, some interesting things that you can do with the new classic PPs. We'll go right in post position order. The number 1 Pro Forma for Mike Stidham. I think this is a nice horse. I personally prefer him a little bit more on turf than I do on the main track, despite his overall record being better on the main track. But having said that, he did run well in that Maryland Sprint most recently and behind New York Central. For what it's worth, third place finisher Lewis Field, he came back and earned an 86 buyer in his next start. To me, I look at Pro Forma as the kind of horse that could sit off of what could potentially be a little bit of a swift pace scenario. I think he's a little bit intriguing in here. I'm not picking him on top. Picking him second in here, but I do think Pro Forma's got a puncher's chance in this spot. For those of you that are curious about the colors of these speed figures, they are all still buyers, but the black numbers are buyers earned on the main track, and the green ones are buyers earned on the turf. So it's a good way to sort of differentiate between the two. If you're curious about the lifetime past performances, you only want to see the last 6 races. You click last 6 races. There you go. Last 12, or if you want all of them, you click on that and you get all of them. Same goes for the workouts. You only want to see the 6 most recent ones, or you want to see the lifetime workouts. You get all those right here. So you get a little bit of functionality with the new classic PPs. That's not including the wagering piece. We'll talk about that in a bit. The 2 Diamond Oops for Pat Biancone. Julian Leparoux has the mount. To me, it's pretty stark, the difference between his form on turf and dirt. Look, he could certainly run well. He's 20-1. I don't want to badmouth a 20-1 shot, but these runs on grass seem considerably better than the ones on dirt. I don't think he's fast enough to win on the main track, despite being 3 for 4 on Gulfstream's main track. Jalen Journey, the 3. I think most people will look at this horse and say kind of the, I don't want to say the X Factor because he's the morning line favorite at 9-5, but he could be anything at this point. He's yet to be tested, really, since being transitioned over to the Kathleen O'Connell barn. Perfect 3 for 3. You take a look and see he's won by blowout lengths. Really looks good out on the track. My concern is what's he going to do with a potentially swifter pace scenario against better horses this time around. And at 9-5, he's just the kind of horse that, you know what, he could win, but I'm not in love with him. I'm not terrified by him either. Super Catch, the runner-up in this most recent race. I know he was 7.25 lengths behind. He came back and earned an 83 buyer in his next start. In the run 2 starts back, the runner-up Vincero came back and earned an 87. The 5th place finisher was the next out winner with an 80 buyer. I'm going to take a stand against Jalen Journey in here. If he wins, I will lose. I'll tip my cap and say, you know what, maybe we've got something here. But for right now, given his price and given the hike in class, I'll be against him. 4 Cautious Giant goes out for Victor Barboza Jr. This is a horse 2 starts back, popped a 100 buyer speed figure. Obviously, that's fast enough to win in a spot like this, but it's a bit of an anomaly. He's more of a high 80, low 90 type. That to me is good enough to get a piece of this thing at best. Misael Jaramillo retains the mount. Fast Pass defeated him in the most recent run. You can see that over here in the class lines. Look, Fast Pass is a nice horse as well. I think both of these are good horses. I just don't know that they're the most likely winners in a race like this. Move on to the number 5, Garter and Tie. Garter and Tie is a tough case for me. I really like this horse. I like him at these one-turn races. I made that clear basically throughout the sort of Triple Crown lead-up when he was running in the Florida Derby and the Holy Bull, and just distances that were too far for him. They turned him back to the one-turn races. I thought he ran really well in this Roar, coming from off of a relatively slow pace. And look, Gladiator King, he's a nice runner. Royal Squeeze, who is going to be breaking to his far, just directly next door to him, 2 starts back, he was able to get the better of him, but I just felt like the way that race was run, a little bit of a difficult ask for him. I don't know where this race came from, this Ocala, but 6.5 furlongs, he looked like an absolute locomotive rounding the far turn, and he blew the doors off the field down the lane. Now, it was a much weaker field than what he's going to face this time around, but occasionally there are those instances where a horse just all of a sudden takes that big step forward. It seems unlikely that it would happen in start number 12, but it did, and maybe that's a sign of things to come. We'll find out if he gets a little bit of pace, and that's the key for Garter and Tie, because he doesn't have a ton of early anything, really. He's going to be coming from the back. He needs a horse like Royal Squeeze, who we'll talk about right now, to go and keep Jalen Journey honest early on. Now, Elizabeth Dobles has done very well, obviously, since claiming this horse. Perfect 4 for 4. The buyers they've sort of plateaued in the 91 range. He's a nice horse. He's a blue-collar type, will show up and run. I just don't know that a 91 is fast enough to win in a spot like this. But hey, throw out a horse that's 4 for his last 4 at your own risk. But I do think he's kind of a key to the race, because if he doesn't go, then all of a sudden maybe Jalen Journey just walks on the front end. If Jalen Journey has a little bit of company up front from Royal Squeeze, maybe it sets up for everybody else. And the outside horse is the 7 Fast Pass for Peter Walder. Another horse in good form, a couple of victories back-to-back, won a stakes race most recently over Cautious Giant, as we may mention. It's an instance where, again, I think he's a nice horse. If the pace heats up, he can come with a bid. But of the closers, he is not my favorite in here. So ultimately, where do I land in this race? I'm going to go back to Garter and Tie. I don't really know where this Ocala came from, because I've always maintained 1 turn is his bread and butter. I just never thought in a 6.5 furlong race he'd be able to go off and win by 10. He was visually very impressive that day, and he's going to be my top pick in here. So I'm going to come right over here, click first, because he's going to be my first selection in here. My second choice is going to be the number 1, Pro Forma. I think he's an honest horse. I think he'll come with his bid. And my third choice will be the number 6, Royal Squeeze. You'll note that I am trying to beat Jalen Journey in this spot. So I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click on Toss. And it's not because I don't think the horse is talented. I just want him to prove to me at the price that he's likely to be. What do all these little tabs mean? You come right up here to the top. You click on Wagering and Live Video. The feed will be up when you log into your DRF Bets account. You can watch it live. And you'll see my picks right here. 5, 1, 6, and 3. If you want to play win bets, place, show, whatever it may be, you put it all in here. You click Bet Now. It goes right into your DRF Bets account. It's a beautiful thing. And if you don't like my analysis, you click on News and Analysis. You get the write-up from Mike Welsh. You get selections from other DRF handicappers. You name it, you got it here. Gulfstream race number 13 using the new Classic PPs. Scheduled post time for the 13th on Saturday afternoon down at Gulfstream is 6:02 Eastern. Good luck.